Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Observation Conversations. My name is Reid.
I'm Jonathan.
And today we're going to be talking about a Netflix movie we just watched, Army of the Dead.
Yes, this was an interesting one. This was a very interesting one. So yes, what we were thinking of doing is just give you guys a brief summary of our thoughts, tell you if we recommend it, give you our score, and then it'll be full spoilers beyond that point. So you have been warned. So Reid, do you want to kick us off? What did you think about Army of the Dead, just in a broad, non-spoiler description?
Very fun. It was a very fun movie. It isn't a Citizen Kane, but it's also, not bad by any means. I thoroughly enjoyed it. If you like heist movies, if you like zombie movies, if you liked, I got kind of like Kingsman vibes or Guardians of the Galaxy vibes, that kind of level of humor. With those two genres, this is the perfect movie for you.
Yeah. And what score would you give it, do you think, out of 10?
7. I'd say a solid 7.
Gotcha. Alrighty. Well, I largely agree with you. Army of the Dead, it was a really it was a thrill ride from beginning to end. I'll say that. I mean, this movie, I wouldn't recommend it if you are of the faint of heart, I should say. It's very thrilling.
If you can't handle gore, do not watch this movie.
Yeah,
that was one thing I wasn't expecting, but
yeah, very gory, very suspenseful. You are stressed considerably throughout large portions of the movie. As you said, I mean, it was a lot of fun. I also liked it. It wasn't without some problems, but I did like it. I had fun with it. I think this was, really very classically in the popcorn entertainment mold. I think that, definitely. I think you would. I think I would have enjoyed it about the same if I had seen it in a theater or watching it on Netflix.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that if you were in a theater and you have that massive image and that incredible sound, it certainly couldn't hurt. I mean, because this was definitely action-packed, thrilling. Classic, summer movie stuff. And so, I did like it. Very thrilling. I would agree with you. I would give it a 7 out of 10. If you're in the mood for a competently put together zombie film, on top and with a very interesting heist element kind of added on top of it, I would recommend it. I think that this is a fun movie to watch.
It's a great and surprisingly original premise.
Absolutely.
Even though it's building on like two, existing genres, the way it blends them together is really well done.
Oh, absolutely, and I'll say this, for better or worse, it is unmistakably a product of Zack Snyder. He has his style that he loves, and he has his themes that he loves to come back to, and you definitely get a lot of that in this film. So if you're a Snyder fan, you're really going to like this because, there's a lot of his trademark throughout this film, and so I would recommend it. I would say 7 out of 10. Good movie. Very entertaining. I can't tell you I'll probably be rushing to watch it again anytime soon, but that's okay. Sometimes you watch it, you enjoy it once, and that's plenty. So 7 out of 10, I'd recommend it.
Yeah. So now we're going to go a full spoiler warning. We're going to get into the thick of it. So if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want it spoiled for you, go watch it, come back, pick it up here. Yeah, I don't know. I thought the like I said, the premise really, really cool. It was a great blend between like Ocean's 11 and the classic zombie flick. I thought the world building was pretty interesting too. I liked the camps. I don't know. I mean, what were your kind of first impressions from watching it?
So let's kind of go through this in order. So we open the movie in the Nevada desert. It's the classic thing. These two people have just gotten married in Vegas, and they're driving down this rural highway, and we go back and forth between these two and this military convoy that's coming from Area 51, that's transporting something. You've got these soldiers, and by the way, there's a lot of one of Zack Snyder's biggest preoccupations is he loves biblical, allegories, and he loves, gods and men and all that kind of stuff. He loves that imagery. And so right off the bat, the name of the convoy, kind of the code name of this convoy transporting this top secret asset is the Four Horsemen, of course. Which
I didn't even pick up on that. I didn't hear
Oh
that.
yeah. Their code name is the Four Horsemen, which right off the bat should tell you that this is probably not going to end well. The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, of course. And so they're bantering back and forth about what they think they might be transporting. Is it some sort of suitcase nuke, or the original copy of the Constitution and all this other stuff? And it was a very kind of it was a very fitting setup, I suppose. I mean, for a movie that is all about Vegas and set in Vegas, you have the Vegas newlyweds and the Area 51 military guys.
Is that the classic like cutting between a military convoy and then some like people just having fun and the two of them driving through the desert? Is that some kind of trope? Because that was exactly how Indiana Jones 4 opened.
Yeah, no, we've
like the
definitely
Russian
seen that
convoy,
before.
and then just like the girls in their convertible.
Yeah, no, we've definitely seen that kind of thing before. So I think it is a little tropey. But ultimately, it's that's that kind of comes with the territory in certain respects, because with this movie, it draws from a lot of different things, but primarily three different things. You have like George Romero's Dawn of the Dead from the 70s, as well as Zack Snyder's own Dawn of the Dead remake from 2004. You have Ocean's 11, of course, and the kind of that whole heist film subgenre, I suppose.
Yeah.
And also Aliens. I've after watching it, I've kind of gone back and I've looked at a bunch of other other commentators talking about the movie and pointing out how similar a lot of the plot points and characters in Aliens are to characters we see in this film.
Oh,
So. Oh yeah, we'll get into it as we
okay.
as we kind of I'll point them out to you, but there's quite a few parallels, and so this movie definitely does not hesitate to draw from other things, and I think that opening scene definitely is included in that. We've definitely seen that kind of setup before, but anyway, without getting too explicit, um, there is an instance of distracted driving with the newlywed couple, and they collide into this military transport. Massive explosion, massive crash.
Not how
Um,
cars work. Also,
no,
uh,
but it was
but
a fun visual, I suppose. So the military transport's completely destroyed. Um, and well, shocker, the asset is an alpha level zombie which escapes and kills everybody, kills all the military guys. And of course, Area 51 is just north of Las Vegas, so the alpha zombie and all the military guys who he killed slash turned descend on Vegas. Question for you, Reid. I feel like we should have asked this up top, but have you ever been to Las Vegas?
I have not. I've
Mm.
not been to Vegas.
Me neither. I'd love to go. Um, I thought about this when we were watching the movie. I do wonder what the Vegas Tourism Board would think about this movie. I not in the sense that you can't have a post-apocalyptic depiction of a city, because you can, but I think what might irk them more is the fact that not only is the city destroyed and ultimately nuked at the end, but you don't see. I mean, and this is a common criticism that I've heard, that beyond the beginning, essentially. And beyond the fact that, it is a casino heist, really, is it? I mean, you could have the same plot play out in largely the same way in any in any city that has any building that has a bank vault, essentially.
Yeah.
There isn't a ton that's Vegas specific about the plot beyond the beginning, where obviously we see the fall of Las Vegas. And that's something that I wish we kind of saw more of, because we only get a brief montage at the very beginning of what happened. Um, I've never been to Vegas, but I do know that, oh, well, if you were going to have a zombie apocalypse in any major American city, admittedly, you would probably want it to be Las Vegas, because it is literally just a big urban conurbation in the middle of the desert. It's very easy to isolate. You wouldn't have any problem cutting off a city like that. But it is a very big conurbation. This is just me, but I was thinking logistically. When that zombie, the king zombie, first makes it to Las Vegas, it's not like you descend from the desert and you're immediately on the strip. Like, you have to go through a lot of suburbs and other areas, like commercial areas, before you actually get to the strip from north of Las Vegas. And so I'm just thinking, like, really, because we see Liberace and zombie showgirls and all that in the montage, but by the time that the zombie would have gotten there, like, people would already know that, like, there's like a zombie killing a ton of people in North Las Vegas, and up in the suburbs before he ever even got to the strip. But that's different story. Anyway, so I would have loved to have seen the fall of Las Vegas. More of that is kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah, I can agree to that point, because on one hand, it's like that's not really what the story is about.
Right.
But on the other, it's like, the actual fall of the city was, only took place during, this one like 2-minute song.
Yeah.
And that was also as credits rolled.
Mm-hmm.
And we see and hear about people who are in these kind of quarantine camps, but we don't see them like crying over their families, or like missing their home, which is like just on the other side of the wall or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, even our main characters, our only introduction is just brief glimpses of them slaying zombies.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so so Vegas Falls, the military tries to stage an intervention to, like, take it back. It fails miserably, of course. That's, as you said, we first meet our Dave Bautista's character and some of his confidants and comrades. I should say Scott Ward, that's Bautista's character, Vanderho, and also Maria Cruz. Are the three that were in that original military intervention. It fails. And it fails. Vegas is abandoned, and they essentially use shipping containers to wall off the city from the rest of the world. And that's the end of that. And I was a little confused, because we see, in this montage, we also see, like, they do these, like, images of these three, like, like, holding, I guess, pictures of their families, like, in front of like a it's like a photo shoot almost.
Yeah.
Interspersed with that. And I thought that, I was a little confused, because throughout the military retreating from Las Vegas, we see Bautista's character, Ward, with this woman and this younger girl, and I thought that was his wife and his daughter. But as we learn later on, his wife turned into a zombie long before, and his daughter got out safely, whereas this woman and younger girl got crushed by shipping containers as they walled off the city. And so I guess that those were just other people that he was saving.
Yeah, it wasn't very clear. Again, that's like, if they had taken a little bit more time other than just the intro music sequence, to kind of flesh out what happened and at least the specifics of these characters, I think it would have helped a lot.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it also saved them from a little bit of exposition.
Hmm.
So it's kind of a trade-off, but
Yeah,
yeah,
and,
it,
and,
it,
and
it, it was confusing for sure.
yeah, and also, I mean, I have to say, it was pretty stupid when when the little girl got crushed by the shipping container because her mom was being mobbed by zombies, and they were.
The girl like ran back to her mom instead of escaping. Yeah.
Yeah, like that was like, sure, I get it, shock value and all that, but that was kind of stupid. I mean, like, that was a little gratuitous. I mean, literally, like, she and her mom got crushed by shipping containers, and that was the final brick in the proverbial wall, I suppose, around Vegas. Anyway,
Well, the
so
other thing I want to say is that was a pretty tight wall.
yeah.
Like it was perfectly around the border of like main downtown Las Vegas. How
Mhm.
did they keep all the zombies within that small area?
I
Because, like you
have
said,
no.
Vegas, proper is like, a much wider area.
Oh yeah, oh totally. And so yeah, I have no idea. I don't think that's explained. I maybe they like had a military perimeter that they just set up, and so that anytime a zombie horde would get close to the perimeter, they would just open fire, and they would just
Yeah,
keep them at bay that way until they could get the shipping containers in place. But even then, as you said, I mean, it's not like it would be perfect. I mean, you would have gaps and unfinished sections and sections where the edges don't line up. So it doesn't make a ton of sense, but it's the visual works. We have functionally a wall around the Vegas metro area.
yeah, and that's where some of the, you know, suspension of disbelief comes into play. And like, if you remember Kingsman Golden Circle, where they're putting all these drug users in literal cages and filling up
Yeah,
like a football stadium, it kind of had those vibes. It
yeah,
was just
yeah,
like, do you just kind of accept it and move on? It's like, okay, this is kind of the tone they're establishing along with the
yeah,
world building.
yeah.
This
Like
this movie is not about the wall, it's about, a Las Vegas casino heist in a zombie filled apocalypse. So
exactly, exactly. It's it's the kind of thing that in the back of your mind it doesn't work. You just can't think about it too hard, or else it'll ruin everything. So you just kind of put that off to one side, and you take the movie at face value. So and that's fine. I mean, at the end of the day, this is, as you said, I mean, this is not this is not striving to be a movie that says something. It's just, supposed to be a fun zombie heist
yeah,
flick. So, you
exactly.
know, you just kind of go with it. So, anyway, um, the wall is constructed. Vegas has fallen. We jump ahead some amount of time. Scott Ward is now a fry cook at some greasy spoon in the desert. And he gets approached by Bly Tanaka, this shadowy casino magnate figure, who comes to him with a plan. He wants to essentially rob his former casino. He wants to send in a team to crack the safe underneath the casino, get $150 million out, um, just before Vegas is slated to be destroyed. And the government, we there's some news segments interspersed throughout this movie, including one, and I honestly I couldn't believe they did this. There was like this CNN talking head segment where you have what's his name, the former White House press secretary Sean Spicer, and former DNC head Donna Brazile, unlike this CNN debate segment debating the merits of the president deciding to drop a nuke on Las Vegas to end the zombie wars, which I just thought, largely because I wasn't expecting to see Sean Spicer and Donna Brazile in Army of the Dead. Admittedly, that was just that was just maybe just shock, but it was okay. I get it. It's an easy way to deliver exposition. It was a little silly, but I see what they were doing.
It was a little silly, but also tonally, I think it still does fit because
Sure,
it's just
yeah,
it's just part of that humor. And there's the one line where they're like, you know, I mean, this is kind of comes as a shock where, originally they were gonna get out of the city a full day before they nuke Vegas, and then the president decides to push it up a day. But originally was going to launch the nuke on July 4th because, quote, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, no,
since we don't know who the president is, but like he just seems like some kind of chill ass dude.
Yeah, no, you said it would be a pretty awesome fireworks display and kind of patriotic when you think about it.
Yeah,
literally, that was the president's reasoning. Is it would be kind of patriotic if you think about it if we nuke the zombies on July 4th. Which I mean, I did laugh when we get to that line later on. It was almost a cringe laugh, but it did get a laugh out of me. Um, but yes, so Tanaka has this plan. He wants to rob his former casino, get this money out. And so Scott Ward, he goes back to where he lives. He agonizes over it for a bit, and then he decides to take the job. And so he assembles his team. So first he goes to get his friend Maria from the military operation, as well as Vanderho, and then they branch out, just like in an Ocean's 11 in a heist film. Everyone has to have their specialization. So you have Tig Notaro as the helicopter pilot, not pirate, pilot. Marianne Peters. And do you know the story behind Tig Notaro's character in this movie? I don't know if you've heard about this.
I don't.
So originally, the Peters character, the helicopter pilot, was supposed to be played by a comedian named Chris D'Elia, I think his name is a well-known comedian. I'm not super familiar with his work, but apparently while they were filming this, D'Elia got into some hot water. I think some sexual misconduct allegations. Not nice stuff. And so obviously he became toxic. So they cut him from the movie. But because they were so far into filming this thing, it was essentially almost finished. It would cost millions of dollars to, bring everybody back and, essentially reshoot all the scenes with that character. And so what they did was they said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to cut out all of his scenes from the film. But instead of getting the entire cast back to essentially reshoot all those scenes, we're going to get Tig Notaro and film her essentially on a green screen and insert her digitally into the rest of the action, so we don't have to get all the actors back. And so you realize, and so maybe now when you know that, you go back and you think about it, you realize that's why, when we first meet her, we first meet her character, it's always cutting back and forth between Ward and Peters and her character, because they're not in the same place. They literally filmed her on a green screen. And every time we see her, also when she's working on the helicopter on top of the casino, she's always alone. Yep. There are scenes where she is in the group, but that was digitally inserted.
Wow.
And so it still cost millions of dollars, but didn't cost nearly as much as to get the whole cast back.
Yeah,
so
months worth of reshoots.
Exactly. So that's just an interesting fun fact behind the scenes. And honestly, I mean, Tig Notaro is great. it's always nice to see her. So
she was really funny, and also just the digital effects then, they were flawless. I didn't notice anything.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I had no idea. So, props to the VFX team.
Oh, totally, yeah, and so I mean, it's always nice to see her. I think that it's almost like this should have been the plan from the start, because she's very charming. He's very charming. And so they also go recruit. They need a safecracker, so they get this guy Ludwig Dieter, who's kind of an eccentric guy, kind of the comic relief of the band. As well as Mikey Guzman, who essentially, I guess he's like a social media star because he recorded himself killing zombies in Vegas before the city fell, essentially. And it's just them essentially at first. And then they meet back up with Tanaka, and that's when we get everybody else. So, first of all, we have Martin, who's Tanaka's head of security. He's going to be Tanaka's emissary when they go into the city. as well as Guzman brings along 2 of his friends, including Chambers, who is just a buddy of his. And also, Ward's daughter insists on joining them because her friend from the refugee camp, Gita, went into Vegas to try to get some money out so she could buy her kids their freedom from the quarantine camp.
Bad parenting, honestly, bad mother. Who decides to go into zombie-infested city?
Oh, it was a terrible idea. I mean,
and leaves her children behind unsupervised. Like,
yeah,
I get that there's that financial struggle, but at the risk of death, near certain death, I that was a little bit.
It was quite frankly, I don't have a lot of respect for Gita's reasoning. I think that was idiotic, as you said. And also they need a way to actually get into the city, and so that's how we get Nora Arnzetter as Lily, who is the coyote, essentially. She's the one who can get you into the city if you so choose.
Yeah.
And so they all get together, and here's the plan. Quite frankly, it's a terrible plan. They're planning this out as if it is just a casino heist. You know, like if this was a normal casino that they're gonna rob. They're gonna go into the city, make their way to the casino. Dieter is going to crack the safe. They're going to load the money into bags. Obviously, unlike an actual casino heist, there's not going to be any security around, so they don't have to worry about that. But they do have to get past these fail safes, essentially, that lead up to the vault door itself. Also, they can't just fly into the city because it's restricted airspace, but there is a helicopter.
Also, there's no one around anymore. The last bus has left the quarantine by that point. So.
Yeah, quite frankly, I don't know who's going to stop them if they fly into the city, but apparently they can't. They have to keep a low profile. So Tig Notaro's character is going to go onto the roof, get the helicopter ready to go. They're going to load the money into bags, and then go up to the roof, fly out, and obviously kill zombies along the way. That's their plan. But there's several problems with this. First of all, nobody knows what the current condition of Las Vegas is at this point. Some time has passed in between the fall and now. The Coyote has some idea, but she hasn't told anybody about this. So Tanaka doesn't know if there's still as many zombies in there as there were at the beginning, or if they're all dead or whatever. So they have no idea how many zombies they're up against. But even then, you can assume there's a lot of zombies in there. Like the Vegas metro area, I don't know exactly how many people live there, but it's over 1 million people live in the Vegas metro area, and the entire thing has been walled off. So let's assume that 25% of the people in that metro area either managed to get out of the city or died for some other reason. They got blown up, shot, whatever, crushed. Vegas was a war zone for a period of time, so I'm sure that killed a lot of people too. So you still have only 75% of the metro area that is zombified. You're still talking about hundreds of thousands of zombies in there. You would truly an army of the dead, as per the title, and you're going to send in 8 people. You would, so that's the first thing. And not even 8 people. Tanaka was only really prepared for 6, 5 or 6. It doesn't matter how much ammunition you're bringing in there. You're not going to have enough to have any kind of confidence that you're not going to run out with the sheer number of rounds you're going to expend and the number of zombies you'd have to kill. Not even all the zombies, just enough zombies to do this job. That's the first thing. The second thing is Vegas has been bombed to shit at this point. Nobody knows, even if you had a satellite image, nobody knows what the actual interior condition of Tanaka's casino is. It could be a total, even if it's still standing, it could be a total ruin in there. You couldn't even get inside. Who would say that the floors haven't collapsed, or anything like that? It could be completely impassable. Also, this helicopter that they're supposed that this is the escape plan is a helicopter that was just that's been sitting there on top of this building the whole time. Who knows what condition that helicopter is in? Like, it could be in pieces, it could be blown up, it could be destroyed. I mean, it could be gone. I mean, and that is the escape plan. I mean, it's a big gamble to say that the elevators are still going to work. Like, yes, there's a generator, but you know,
It's
elevator
a
shafts made.
generator for like basic electronics, not a elevator. Like,
Not the entire building, just
yeah, they
indefinitely.
only filled the generator with like one can of gas, and it somehow powered the entire building for
Exactly.
like a full 90 minutes. Them using the elevator, them using a microwave,
Yeah.
and like every single machine up and running.
Yeah.
Like,
And not to mention, this is the biggest stupid thing of all about the plan, is that Tanaka himself knows that this doesn't work, because as we learn later on, he has sent in several teams before this team, and they have all died trying to get the money out.
yeah,
So, and look, as we'll see later on, Tanaka does have ulterior motives, but if they go in there and just die immediately, he doesn't get anything regardless. So it's a terrible plan. It's a terrible, terrible plan. But that's what they're doing. The whole team feels like they can pull it off, so they
well,
go in.
here's what I'll ask you. If you were tasked with robbing this vault, how would you do
Gosh, I don't know if we have enough time for that.
it?
um, I will say, okay. Well, I would start with this. I wouldn't have the escape plan be contingent on the helicopter on the roof. I think
Yeah.
that
First thing, I
you
would
would,
fly in.
yeah,
Fly
yeah,
in with
yeah,
my
or
own thing.
yeah, and not even then really, because I mean, who's to say again, this is not a stable building, like I'm not sure I would want to land a helicopter on it without knowing for sure that it could support, doing that safely. I mean, quite frankly, I don't know. I mean, it's even
Wait,
if,
I have a question.
yeah,
Tanaka owned the casino, right?
yeah,
Like, it was his casino. He already got, the insurance payout, but he just wants this additional,
100,
however many million.
yeah, 150 million.
Why didn't he tell them the combination to the safe, or give them the means to kind of override the typical? Because I know it's like a randomized combination, but
Right.
surely there's some way to override that so you can like open it and store things in it, because it's a
Right.
vault.
Right. Yeah,
Why didn't he give them the
you
means
would
to
think
do
so.
that and open it? Why he was like, you guys got to break into my vault. It's can't be broken into. Good luck.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, you would think so. Yeah. Yeah. That may be a plot hole. I don't know. And honestly, I'm thinking I can't really think of a way to that you could even begin to execute this plan safely. Like, it's truly. I mean, I think that there's just far too many unknowns. Like, even if you could lift up a section of the wall and send in a tank and 100 guys in full tactical gear, I don't see a way, honestly. I mean, there's just, because the numbers against them are so overwhelming. And the enemy, two things. The enemy has no self-preservation instinct. So there's no strategy to it. They just keep coming at you till they kill
The
you. And
throwbot,
also,
yeah, it's like how the Russians fought World War II. They just keep throwing
right.
bodies at you.
And not only that, but also, at least when you're fighting another human, like, if the enemy kills one of yours, that person then doesn't come back and join the enemy's team. That's true in this case. Like, for every one you lose, you just add another one to their ranks.
Yeah.
So, it's, yeah, even if you had, even if you had a small army of your own, I really would struggle to find a way to get in there as safely as possible, crack the safe, get the money out, and get out again. Obviously without letting the zombies out by lifting the wall. So yeah, I don't know. I think that any kind of helicopter is going to be susceptible. I mean, sure, you could try landing it on the roof, but then again, you still run into the problems with the generators and everything else and the elevators. I don't know. I think that I don't think it's possible to do it in a realistic way with those circumstances. But I mean, do you have an idea for what they might have done?
I mean, again, they said restricted airspace, but I don't think that's being enforced because they're evacuating everything. So fly in, land on the building if you know there's already a helicopter there. I mean, yeah, the building's been bombed to shit, but also like, I don't think you can also kind of observe the outside from the helicopter, see does this look
Yeah.
stable enough to land on? And I think it's not about fighting your way in. It's about sneaking your way in.
Hmm.
Which, they did try to do at first with that whole scene where they're kind of like moving through the shipping container.
Yeah.
Great way to build suspense also.
Yeah.
That was a great scene.
I
We'll
liked that. Yeah.
we'll get to that, but yeah, either that and then you make your way down and then instead of like trying to crack open the door, you see if you can like go in through the wall or through the ceiling or something. Either
Yeah.
that or like drill your way down into the earth from the outside of the wall
That's
and
true. Yeah, just
just
create it.
bore your way
Honestly,
in.
yeah, honestly, that might actually be the best way to do it. Create a tunnel. I think. Yeah, because I mean, like we know how to do that. Like this Tanaka clearly has vast resources. Like if he wanted to create.
Hey, Elon Musk, can we borrow one of your tunnel boards?
Hey, I mean, Musk already has
How
his
would you
own
like
tunnel
50
system.
million?
Musk already has his tunnel system in Vegas, so it's already pre-built. You can just go,
Yeah.
you could just go right there. And so, yeah, honestly, I think you just cracked it. I think that might be the safest way to do it and the most reliable way is just create a tunnel under the wall, under the city. You can keep it secret. I mean, Tanaka's a very rich man. He could afford, he could pay people to dig him a tunnel under the
Yeah.
wall and to his casino. So, yeah, I think that would be the best way to do it. But anyway, you mentioned how they get into
Sneaking
the
in.
city. Yeah, so the coyote guides them into the city. She has this one gateway through one of the shipping containers that nobody knows about, and they get in. And at first, there's a little bit of relief because a lot of zombies are already dead. So
Dried up in the sun, which was
exactly
kind of a
realistic.
cool visual actually. It's kind of like those like in the Civil War where there are literal like piles of bodies and it's
Yeah.
just like dried up zombies.
Oh, totally. And it's realistic too, because I mean, God, it gets hot out there
Yeah.
in the Nevada desert. So it makes sense that the zombies would literally just dry up. And she even says that on those times it does rain, they actually briefly reanimate, which is a very disturbing
Which
thought.
not they failed to that would have been such a cool like Chekhov's gun that they just
Mm,
didn't utilize.
mm,
It's if like even maybe they encounter very few zombies on the way there and then instead of oh they're gonna nuke the city a day earlier because that was kind of like a stakes way higher than they need to be for the situation.
yeah.
But if they're like, oh, this is great, we got the money, now we can just sneak back out, and then it starts to rain. And you see the
Oh,
first few drops of rain.
ooh,
And then all
that
of a
would
sudden
be.
these giant piles
Oh
start moving
God.
and groaning and coming to
Oh
life. And they're
jeez.
like,
Oh my
oh
God.
my God, we need a
That
different
would
way out of here.
Yeah, that would have been a fascinating plot twist. That would have been something. Wow, yeah, that's very interesting. That is very interesting. And honestly, to a certain extent, you know, even if you keep the plan exactly the same, I think there's at least as much merit to the idea of just go out the way you came in with the
Yeah,
money
I think that
than
would have been a
the
lot more
helicopter.
exciting than just
Yeah,
the helicopter. There's kind of why is there just a helicopter on top of a casino? It's kind of like
yeah,
a
yeah.
I mean, it's not really a
Well,
Deus Ex Machina, but it's kind of like it's convenient. It's just convenient for the plot.
yeah, it's convenient, but I give them a pass on that one because it's a big high profile casino. So
Yeah,
I would understand if they had a helicopter on standby that just was left. What's unrealistic is that it's just left there. Like everything has gone to shit. It's the zombie apocalypse, and you've got a helicopter on the roof.
And
I'm sure
it
someone's
wasn't even like a private helicopter that like Tanaka owned or something. It was like
right.
a medicopter. There's
Yeah,
like the
exactly.
red cross on it, and it was like the military just left it on top of this
Exactly.
casino for some reason.
Yeah, that's the real unrealistic thing is that the helicopter not that it would have been there in the first place, but that it was left there by whoever brought it there themselves. Um, whether it was the military or the Red Cross or just some rich person who came to the casino before the fall, like they would have taken their helicopter back out again. But anyway, so we make it into the city, and this is the first time we start to experience what you were saying earlier, which is the world building. These zombies aren't your standard issue, just mindless, run at you, bite you zombies. The zombies, well, those zombies, the shamblers, were the ones that all dried out in the desert.
Yeah.
But the zombies that are left are the alphas, and these are faster and a lot smarter than your average zombies. And we begin to learn that the zombies have kind of created their own society, their own like fiefdom in Las Vegas, which is fascinating because we see the Alpha Zombie, the original Alpha Zombie from the military convoy, whose official name, by the way, is Zeus, the Zombie King. So again, you've got that gods and mythology, element from Snyder. So Zeus, when the city is first when the city is first, when the zombie apocalypse is first beginning and chaos is breaking out, we see Zeus walk past this casino called the Mount Olympus, and again, the Zeus in the Greek mythology, which is presumably where he gets his get up because he kind of has an outfit like Zeus, and he kind of takes on this god role in this kingdom of his, and so. So two of these alpha zombies approach our group. One of them is one of the original soldiers from the convoy, and the other one is, I guess, like a showgirl type thing. Like we don't know her significance at first.
It was just his queen.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was just like a random girl that he just decided was pretty enough and suitable enough to, spoiler, have his child.
Oh yeah, well we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that. But yeah,
I just want to say like surprising amount of not safe or suitable for work explicit content in this movie that I was not expecting. And the opening sequence, we just see bare naked, or not bare naked, but bare chested zombie showgirls.
Yeah.
And then this also implies that the zombies are like doing it.
Yeah, well again, well, yeah. Well, we learn more about
the implications of that are kind of pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that because there's even more to say about that later on. But yeah, so these two are important. We don't know exactly what their significance is yet, but as you said, I mean, she is the as we learn a little bit later, she is the zombie queen. She's like Zeus's right-hand person. And so Coyote informs our group that because these are smarter, more organized zombies, they have a system. If you can give them a sacrifice, they won't bother you for up to a point. There are still rules and there are still limits, but if you give them a sacrifice, they'll give you safe passage up to a certain point. And so that's what she does. There is an abusive security guard, Bert Cummings, who she shoots in the leg and ties him up. And that's their sacrifice. So the two of them kind of drag Bert back to Mount Olympus, and that's what gives them the ability to move semi-freely through Las Vegas for a little bit. And so they use their autonomy to move through, not on the main road, but kind of move through the ruins of various buildings and casinos to get to Tanaka's casino, which, again, more biblical and God's illusions. The two towers of this casino are Sodom, where the helicopter is, and Gomorrah, where the vault is under. So Sodom and Gomorrah is essentially what Tanaka's casino is. Yeah. Snyder as we know, not the most subtle when he wants to get when he wants to get a theme across. And so they begin to make their way to Tanaka's casino. Meanwhile, we follow Burt Cummings, who's dragged back to Mount Olympus, and this is where we learn about the true underpinnings of zombie society. The female zombie, from earlier, she's Zeus's queen. They essentially rule this kingdom, the zombie kingdom, and they've got like a whole they essentially hold court in the ruins of the Mount Olympus. They have a system where anytime somebody comes into Las Vegas, sometimes they just kill you, but other times they take you hostage, which is why they think that Gita might still be alive, because the coyote says that she knew this one guy from before who actually made it out, who escaped. And so, they have this whole society, and they turn Cummings. And we rejoin our main group who've made it to Tanaka's casino. And for me, this may have been the standout sequence of the entire movie, quite frankly. So they are making their way into Tanaka's casino, and they essentially encounter this series of hallways and corridors, which the power is still out. They haven't reached the generator yet. And they're packed with zombies. The zombies completely line the corridors, but they're dormant. So they won't just see you and kill you right away. If you don't wake them up, then you should be able to pass by without causing any incident. And so the entire team has to sneak through, these caverns and corridors without making their way, without waking the zombies. And so Ward has the idea to use these glow sticks that she lays on the ground, and this is the first thing, or one of the first things that's a big parallel with Aliens. Is there's another sequence like this in Aliens where they use glow sticks to light the way past the alien. And so he goes first, and they all kind of follow. And Chambers, Samantha Wynn, she speaks to Martin and essentially tells him that, hey, I don't trust you. I'm keeping my eye on you. You're up to something, yada, yada, yada. And, he makes some snide remark. So the two of them are at the back of the group. And what Martin does is he diverts one of the glow sticks to go down the wrong hallway. And Chambers follows that glow stick, and she finds herself in a dead end, completely flanked by zombies. And some of them one of them knocks over like some pans and some pots and things, and that creates a big noise, and that starts to wake them up. And I have to say, I'm not familiar with Samantha Wynn. I can't think of anything else that I've seen her in, but she has an incredible sequence surviving the zombies in the hallway.
She should be in the next John Wick movie.
She was phenomenal, really phenomenal. So at first, some of them wake up, but not all of them yet.
Yeah, and so they wake up one at a time. So she takes the knife and jams it up, and then it's slowly putting them down on the ground, and then the next one starts to move, and she does that.
Exactly.
Until one of the ones she had killed, its arm is resting on a bunch of pots, and they all come crashing down.
Exactly. Yeah, and so she
they all wake up, and then all of a sudden she's going ham, just stabbing them, shooting them at the same time, pushing them away. Yeah. A lot of actual tactics that we've seen in The Walking Dead, for example, but never on this scale where you're literally just surrounded by bodies.
100%. Yeah, no,
I don't know. It was just really cool, and then you think she's gone, and then 3 seconds later, she bursts out a window, having gone a different route.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that everything she does is incredibly smart. This is one thing that I know you and I both really, really appreciate and put a premium on, is if you have a movie where you have a lot of action, a lot of fights, good fight choreography, there's no amount of money that you shouldn't put towards having the best possible fight choreography, because when fights are choreographed in a way that's predictable or lazy or conventional, it takes away so much from your action movie. But when you have a series like a John Wick, which I know is the gold standard for both of us in terms of fight choreography, where everything is so precise and so smart and so deliberate, that makes it 1,000 times more entertaining. And
it's also, it's one of the most memorable scenes of the entire movie. Like,
it
that is
is,
the
absolutely.
one fight sequence that I remember. And it's like
Absolutely.
not even about the main character. She's kind of a side character that ends up getting killed like right after this sequence, but it's just
Absolutely.
so well done.
Absolutely. And whoever the stunt coordinator is and Samantha Wynn deserves so much so much props for this sequence in particular. Because as you said, I mean, she's very smart. First, she just knifes them, gets rid of them, knifes them, gets rid of them to keep them all from waking up. They all wake up, they swarm her. She's using a combination of her firearm and her knife and just her body to push them back and kick them to completely hold off this entire horde, which surrounds her until she can get to the end of this hallway, which Martin locks because he's the corporate asshole character
Yeah.
who's secretly stymieing the team. And for I don't know how long it was, 3-4 minutes, we're just following her surviving incredibly. And that's the thing, is that here's the other thing about good fight choreography, is that is the way you dispel complaints about plot armor. Because you have times, a lot of times, where you have fights where the main character is surviving improbably, but you don't believe it because it just feels like they're protected by the plot. No, no,
Yeah.
no. In this, again, Chambers' character, everything she's doing seems deliberate and seems earned, and that's not plot armor. That's just really good fighting skills. And she manages to hold them off, knifes them, shoots them, reaches the end of the hallway. The door is locked. We think she's dead. There's like a beat of a few seconds, and then she bursts through the window, still alive, being pursued by like 100 zombies.
And then continuing to fight
And still
on the
continuing to
floor, and
fight
she's still just like,
and win. And honestly, this is one thing I didn't like because I get what they did. They really focused on this character. They made us really like her, and then she had a tragic heroic send off. But I'm not convinced she had to die because once she broke through the window into the hallway,
they could have
the
helped
rest of
her.
the team was still there.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. Nobody wants to be responsible for accidentally shooting Chambers, if they just start shooting indiscriminately into the mob of zombies. But the alternative is Chambers will get bitten if you don't do anything.
And
And
also,
so
like, at least half of them are, military professionals.
exactly, and that's the thing, is that
So, like,
everybody is an incredible shot on this team. There's not a single sloppy shot except for maybe Dieter on this entire team.
well, even then, he proved himself to be like surprisingly confident with a gun.
Exactly. So they could have helped her, but
The
she was
plot
mom.
demanded she die,
Yeah, and
reverse
she
the
got
state.
killed off.
Yeah.
Blew up the gas canister on her back, and
That was like the first moment I was like, oh yeah, this is a Snyder film.
yeah.
Because like the classic, like all of a sudden it gets slow-mo, we see like the first ignition, and then the fireball just spreads out past the camera, and we're
Yeah,
kind of engulfed in orange. And I was like, they
absolutely.
ended up doing that twice in the movie, and I was like, okay, it was okay the first time, not the greatest because like you can kind of tell it's CGI, but the second
Mm,
time I was like, all right, Zach, let's tone it down a little bit, please.
yeah. And so, yeah, awesome fight sequence, tragic death. Honestly, I think that just in the space of that 4 minutes, Chambers became my entire character in the whole movie. I
Yeah,
mean, look, don't get me wrong. I love Batista. Everybody loves Batista. He's got such a likable, charming guy, and obviously great at action. We
he's
all
got
love him as
heart too.
Oh yeah, he's got a lot of range, and I mean, of course, we all, his most prominent thing, we all know him for Drax, where he's just great. He's got the action beats, but he's also very funny, and I think we all like him for that. So don't get me wrong, Batista was great, but nobody earned my respect more in this movie than Chambers, quite frankly.
Yeah,
So I was very sorry to see her go, but anyway, they make it to Tanaka's casino. So far, the zombies still really aren't troubling them. There are a few they have to clear out in the casino, but they make it to the safe room. and they split up. So Tig Notaro goes to the roof to get the helicopter ready. Ivanhoe, I believe it was, and Dieter go down to the safe to work on. Oh, sorry, Vanderhoe and Dieter go down to work on the safe.
Yeah.
As well as Mikey is also in the safe. Meanwhile, Lily and Martin go outside, supposedly to stand, to stand, to keep an eye on things, stand guard. And where was Batista during this?
He and Kate go to the generator.
Right. Yes, he and Kate go to the generator where
and then
he talks
have a kind of a heart to heart, which was interesting. I appreciated that the movie kind of also had this more emotional plot line, where Batista is like, kind of grieving his dead wife and trying to reconnect with his daughter, and his daughter is kind of messed up at the fact that Batista killed his zombie wife, and like, there's all this stuff, but at the same time, I felt like it was never really smoothly introduced. Like every time kind of one of those emotional sequences came up, it felt very out of place.
Oh yeah,
based on everything else that was happening. So, I think it would have been a worse movie without it. But I don't think it was implemented that smoothly.
It definitely, this movie did not, as you said, it didn't really smoothly introduce the emotional beats, which, I mean, I think it was almost inevitable because everything else is so action packed, and we're flipping between heist and action and horror and back to heist and action. It's hard to then also get that emotional subplot in there. So it did feel a little bit jarring, but I did crack a smile when he's talking about, he's going to open up a food truck and grilled cheese. It's got to be grilled cheese.
When they kind of do it a little bit more humorously, I think it works because there are other humorous moments that maybe aren't kind of as emotional like that. But I think what they could have also done is, leaned away from the emotional aspect of it and leaned harder into this is kind of a fun action blockbuster type of thing.
Right.
And, maybe that, because of that, then they have like kind of a better ending where like they escape with the money, or kind of a more classic ending instead of like the kind of, I mean, we'll talk about the ending, but the actual like heartbreak at the end, and it's like, well, you're also kind of stupid throughout the entire thing. Like, you're trying to reconnect with your dad, but you also ran off from the group and risked your life for this stranger.
Yeah, exactly.
Who was kidnapped. So I was like, I mean, this emotional moment happened, but was it earned? No.
Exactly. And Kate running off was definitely, it was completely artificial just to, add more tension in and give us, an additional thing we have to resolve in the third act. But quite frankly, I mean, I know Kate is friends with Gita and she wants to get her out, and she has some reason to believe that Gita may still be alive. But quite frankly, if Kate was truly rational, what she would have done was she wouldn't have gone in step one. She would have stayed with the kids, followed the kids to Barstow, and then if the mission is successful, because she doesn't have any fighting experience, so she can't like watch her dad's back if he gets into trouble. And so just trust that the mission, look, if he's going in regardless, you can't stop him going in. So if he dies on the mission, he knew the risks. But if he's successful and he gets out, if he goes in and dies, he knew the risks. If he gets out with no money, well, you still got your dad. And if he gets out with the money, you get $15 million. You can easily buy the kids' freedom from the quarantine camp and have lots of money left to spare for yourself, all while keeping an eye on the kids the whole time.
Yeah.
Yes, Gita is in there and you want to get her out and she's your friend, but let's be honest, she's an adult.
She's going to die. She's
exactly.
Gonna die anyways.
Exactly. And that's the other thing about, because people, a number of the characters guilt trip the Coyote for bringing people in. She never coerced anybody to go in. They asked her to help them get in. So they have to, at some point you have to take responsibility for your own actions. It's not the Coyote's fault. She only facilitated what people were going to try to do anyway. So yes, you could say, well, maybe she just should have should have not been that person. But what's the alternative?
Then people would have tried to sneak in anyway.
Exactly, and at least then she could give them some pointers,
letting zombies out too. So
exactly. So she never made anybody do anything. She merely facilitated what responsible people chose to do on their own. So if Kate were truly rational, that's what I think she would have done. Yeah. But anyway, we're getting to that. So Tig Notaro, let's just go top to bottom. Tig Notaro's on the roof fixing the helicopter. The helicopter, predictably, is a piece of shit. It is completely busted up, broken, won't start. Yeah, and also she lies to
I don't know why
Ward about the helicopter. I don't know why. Like this is not the situation for the time for sarcasm and sarcastic comments.
Like I guess she's a sarcastic character and that's like her one trait, but like one, why would you lie? You're kind of jeopardizing everyone, and
including
you're
yourself.
gonna find out eventually if it doesn't work. Two, it ends up working anyways. So why did they have her lie? If the helicopter was going to Deus Ex Machina and start working at the last minute, regardless.
Yeah. The only explanation I can come up with is because maybe it wasn't working at that point, but she didn't want to panic everybody by saying that. And so she believed she could get it to work, but it wasn't working yet.
Well,
but I still think she should have been
honest. Is that they also found out that they're going to get nuked in 90 minutes, and they weren't panicking.
Yeah.
So,
and
I just...
And that's. So let's get to that. Let's get to that right now. So she's on the roof of the helicopter. Helicopter's a piece of shit, won't start. Ward and Kate they successfully do their thing. They get the generators powered and on, and the casino's operational again. Vanderhoof and Dieter and Guzman are in the safe room. There's a yeah, have you ever seen the series Get Smart? There's also a movie with
I have, yes. I saw the movie.
Yeah, the opening sequence where
that's an old movie.
Oh yeah. Well, the Steve Carell movie was just mid 2000s, I think, but the show is from the 60s. And they have the famous opening sequence where he's walking through the series of doors, and it's increasingly elaborate things, and doors and ways of getting into the main facility. Mm-hmm. This was kind of like that, but it was essentially security for
booby traps.
Booby traps for the safe. It wasn't anything terribly clever. It was poison darts and fire,
wall-mounted shotguns.
Yeah, wall-mounted shotguns, and finally just two walls that come in and crush you. Again,
another super gory moment.
Yeah.
Not something I wanted to see, but I ended up seeing. Is a wall separating and having literally all of the human guts just kind of stuck to it and pulling apart.
Yeah. Which also, I mean, definitely a plot hole. It was cartoonish because obviously, as you said, people have to get into this vault normally to put the money in. So there must be some way to deactivate these traps, and surely Martin
didn't get him. Yeah, Tanaka was just like, you got to figure it out on your own. I mean, I have the key card, but I'm not going to give it to you.
Yeah, and I mean, no, it didn't make any sense. Completely cartoonish. It was just to give us the visual because they use a zombie cleverly. They coerce a zombie to walk through the traps and activate them, leading to it being crushed by the two walls that come in.
Yeah, I will say them capturing a zombie and then microwaving a zombie hand, so then the zombie will be wanting to eat it.
Exactly.
So that was funny.
Yeah.
And then that was another thing where it's they kind of discovered, they're not attracted to flesh necessarily, they're attracted to heat.
Mm-hmm.
And then it never comes up again. That could have been a useful tool that if they had gone the original route of we can't escape through the helicopter, we have to go back out the way we came in. Now there's a bunch of zombies in the way. We know this one trick though, so maybe we can use that to divert some of them because they're attracted to heat.
Right.
And an interesting element that could have been used but just wasn't.
Yeah. And so and so Dieter gets to the safe. He starts working on the safe. So finally, we have Lily and Martin who are outside. They're supposed to just be guarding the casino, but they went all the way back to the start, all the way back to the entrance.
For some reason.
I'm assuming just walking through the streets, which Lily was that was the one thing she said not to do is walk through the streets, because I can't imagine they went back through the zombie hallway that's just been activated. So I guess they just walked through the streets back to the beginning. And
which also means they didn't have to go through the zombie hallway.
Yeah,
they could have just gone around.
Exactly, yeah. Another plot hole, but they make it back to the beginning, and they get another audience with the Queen and the other Alpha. Not entirely sure why. I guess she did shoot some rounds into the air, so I guess the sound just attracted them.
With also, and she didn't know what he was planning, right?
I think she did, because she does say at the end, that essentially Tanaka pulled her aside separately and explained what was really going on, what the real motivation was.
Tanaka's bodyguard. What was his name? It was Martin.
Martin.
Yeah. They pull like Martin pulls her aside and says like, oh, I'll give you some amount of money if you don't tell anyone about this. But he only does that when he's, sawing off the head of the Queen. Exactly. So this is after he shot the kind of tassel thing and captured her.
Exactly.
So I don't think Lily knew what he was planning when she fired those rounds into the air. So I'm just wondering why she did that.
Yeah, well, and regardless of if she knew or not, I can't believe she went along with it, because she's the only one here who really understands the dynamics of how this society works. She must have known that by doing anything to the Queen, by causing her any harm whatsoever, it would become a suicide mission instantly.
Oh, she did know that. She was like, yeah, that was a death scream. When they find her body, they're gonna come after us. She literally said that out loud.
So quite frankly, in that moment, I don't know why. I mean, honestly, just shoot Martin. Look, Martin is there to keep tabs on the team, right? But quite honestly, it's a zombie infested city. Just if you make it out with the money, the mission goes perfectly. Just say, oh, Martin, we couldn't get him out. He got mobbed. He died in the city, and we did everything we could. You don't have to keep Martin alive. We, the audience, know that Martin is a bad guy. Like, before he even does what he does to Chambers, like, he's obviously a shifty character that can't be trusted. But even assuming that our characters, they don't want to harm one of their own, Lily should have just killed him right then and there. Because the moment Martin does what he does, he's killed everyone, essentially. So I don't know why Lily wouldn't just stop him then and there, because if Martin doesn't kill the Queen, our team actually has an excellent chance of success, all things considered. Yeah. Like, if Martin doesn't kill the Queen, Zeus is over at Mount Olympus doing his thing. He's not concerned about what they're doing. He doesn't even know what they're doing. He's not concerned. They've already cleared out the zombies in Bly's casino. Dieter, we know he opens the safe. They're all there with their bags. They can get the money, and Tig Notaro does get the helicopter to work eventually. If they don't piss off Zeus, they have an excellent chance of success. All things, terrible plan, stupid plan. Don't piss off Zeus. Don't hurt the Queen. The mission can succeed. So,
at the very least, like, maybe she doesn't know what he's doing until it's too late and he kills the Queen. And at that point, like, killing him won't help because the Queen's already dead. Why not move and dispose of the Queen's body so Zeus can't find you or know where you are? Like, sure, there's the scream, but, if he doesn't see the body, or if it takes him a while to find it, it's just more time you have.
That's true.
And it also would have been like, I mean, obviously your solution is a lot better, but given the circumstances, they could have also done that to help their chances.
That's true. But I think even then, because everybody heard the scream. Zeus heard the scream, so even if he doesn't find the body, he knows something's up, and at that point, it's still too late. And so yeah, I think that at that you're right. I mean, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt to the extent that I'll say Lily didn't know what Martin was planning until it was already too late. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt up until that point. But at this point, the queen is dead, and Lily of all people should know there's only one option at this point. Queen let out her death scream. Zeus is coming. Lily knows the consequences of this. All hell's about to break loose. She knows that the only option to get everyone that's left out alive is to abandon the mission right now. Forget about the nuke even. You have to get out right now if you're going to get everyone or most people that are still alive out. There's no time to collect the money. There's no time to board the helicopter. It's finished. We're done. And so Lily knows this.
And she just doesn't say anything.
Yeah, well, because at this point she thinks I guess she thinks that it's stupid. She should know that the plan is fucked at this point, but I guess she still thinks they can pull it off and escape with the helicopter. So they go. So Martin has the queen's head in a bag, which is still alive, and they go back to the casino to rejoin everybody else. This is when we learn about the nuke. So apparently, because of mass outcry over the symbolism of nuking Las Vegas on July 4th.
Plot reasons.
Exactly. The president has decided not to indefinitely postpone the nuking, but actually move it up 24 hours. So instead of having a full day, theoretically a full day in the city before it's destroyed, they only have 90 minutes. As you said, plot reasons, but here we are. So now you've got two problems. Queen is dead. Zeus is pissed. He's got to kill everybody, and the city's getting nuked in 90 minutes. At this point, even if Lily doesn't speak up, Ward should make the executive decision. This city will be leveled, completely leveled in 90 minutes, and it's not even enough to get out of the city. You have to get far away from the city if it's being nuked in 90 minutes. And Dieter hasn't even opened the safe yet at this point. Again, at this point, the mission's over. It's done. At best, you can all get into the helicopter and fly off right now and get as far away from Las Vegas as possible.
And before you have the money that was in the cart.
Exactly.
Like, you're not leaving empty-handed.
Exactly. And at least you're escaping with your lives, you know, because with 90 minutes, that is maybe enough time to get far enough away from the city, not even by foot, in a helicopter, assuming it works, to not, be caught in the initial radiation cloud and the initial blast. That's your best bet. Mission's over at that point. So you killed the queen, mission's over. Nuking in 90 minutes, mission's over. But they continue. So Dieter needs half an hour to crack this safe. As you said, it's a randomized lock, and so he has to listen very carefully as the mechanisms are turning inside the door. And he needs half an hour to crack this safe. After which they will have mere minutes to collect the money, make it up to the roof, and get on the helicopter, assuming everything works perfectly. So Dieter manages to crack the safe. They get into the safe. They start loading their bags. But at this point, Zeus arrives, sees the queen's body, goes crazy, brings the body back to Mount Olympus, and this is where we get to it. He essentially cuts the queen's abdomen open and pulls out what we believe to be a zombie fetus, essentially. I think that's the only way to describe it. Zeus obviously is furious. He's got his whole crowd of zombies riled up, and so they march on Tanaka's casino. Essentially, they have an all-out assault on Tanaka's casino. They're going to go over there and kill everybody. And he has a zombie horse, and he has he has a battle gear. This is very smart.
He has a metal helmet. That was so cool. In terms of world building and just kind of thinking about what would a smart zombie actually do. having a metal helmet, super smart, super cool. Every time the bullet deflects off of it, I'm like, oh, that was so awesome. At the same time, I'm like, why not shoot him in the eye?
No, it's
But,
true.
that's...
Yeah, no, it's true. That was very smart, and it demonstrates that he is the alpha among alphas. That he has armor essentially, because of course zombies, their number one vulnerability is headshots. So if you have a
their
faceplate,
only
no
vulnerability. Yeah,
headshots. Yeah,
and
essentially.
that was like, the fact that it was Army of the Dead. Like, most times when you say army, you think of the U.S. Army, in this modern age. But that was like, kings and their armies and that kind of medieval. And he
Right.
was the zombie king, and he had his metal crown. He had this like rebar staff that I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
The zombie horse, really interesting. Again, that calls back to like the Four Horsemen idea. The zombie tiger, that was really cool.
Yeah, that
I
was
like that.
interesting.
Also reminded me of The Walking Dead, where they had like a normal tiger that was killing zombies, and this was a zombie tiger.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked how they kind of dressed up Zeus and kind of made him this like kingly figure.
Oh, totally, totally. And so this is when, this is now when we're getting into the third act, and all hell breaks loose. So the assault begins. The first person to go is, okay. So first, Ward notices that Kate has run off. He deduces that she's gone to Mount Olympus to try to free Gita and some other person that went in with Gita. So he starts to go after her, and Maria tries to, like, convinces him to let her go with him because to watch his back. They go up to the elevator, and Maria, her head
takes one last look behind her.
Exactly. It does a full 180 around. Her neck snaps, obviously, and she's dead.
You see part of the spine like jutting out of her neck.
Oh my god!
Like, zombie movies have a lot of gore, and a lot of it is unsurprising.
Yeah.
That was truly shocking to me.
Yeah, that was.
It was a great reversal of expectations, because you're like, oh, they're gonna go out together, and like this is kind of this new love interest, and like, and then it immediately shut down. It's like, nope, you're fucked.
Yeah, no, there was, yeah, and that was really what signaled to you what was about to start happening, because people start dropping like flies from that point forward, and that was, shocking, gory, I don't know, everything you said. And so we see, so first Martin tries to, he has what he needs. His mission essentially was to escape with the head. It's far more valuable than any amount of money that was in the safe. Escape with the head, because the government wants to buy the head so that it can create its own zombie army. Presumably what they were trying to do in the first place with Zeus. They want to do that again, even though the limitations of that concept have been made painfully obvious. They still want to do that, and so they're going to buy the head off of Tanaka. So he escapes from the vault room, locks the door behind him, and he gets outside, and he comes face to face with the zombie tiger, which he's been commenting on the whole time. He hates the idea of the zombie tiger. He comes face to face with the zombie tiger, and for like 2 minutes gets mauled, absolutely obliterated by the zombie tiger.
Nothing
which eventually
hidden. You just see every single gash and claw mark that he gets on his face and body, and like they're actively spurting blood. And that was like,
ugh. Yeah, no, it was grisly. It was really grisly. In the as the safe room is being overrun, Vanderho and Dieter are still down there. Dieter gets overwhelmed. Well, no. First Vanderho tries to fight Zeus. Bad idea.
Honestly, respect for that moment, because that's another like, oh, this is a smart zombie. I'm out of ammo. He's gonna respect me if I challenge him in a fist fight.
Oh yeah. And also,
I thought that was really cool, and the fact that the movie had the guts to like go through with that. but he
Oh
just
yeah.
gets his ass kicked. Like,
Yeah, no, yeah,
bad.
I agree. That was a really cool setup because obviously Zeus is huge and super powerful, but Omari Hardwick, the actor who plays Vanderho, is in he's a big
He's
guy
also
too.
huge, yeah.
Yeah, no, like he's a really big guy, like not Batista level, but not far off.
He did that
Um,
like Henry Cavill thing where he like reloads his fist. And then
yeah,
like
no, I mean it was it felt like and even all the rest of the zombies kind of stopped to watch this fight.
yeah.
Like it was a true zombie versus human mano a mano matchup. And, Omari gets the first hit in, but as you said, I mean, Zeus just completely throws him against the wall, destroys him. Um, yeah, he's badly injured. Zombies start to come in through the elevator shaft. They smash through the elevator. They get overwhelmed. Dieter throws Vanderho into the safe, closes the door behind him, and gets killed. Essentially, gets overrun.
I
Um,
was so disappointed with that scene
mm,
because the movie had spent all this time building up Zeus as essentially this unkillable machine. It's
yeah.
like Zeus, he cannot be defeated. He is just like this super alpha male. And I thought what they were gonna do was like somehow get him into the vault and then lock the vault,
Mm,
essentially trapping him. Um, and like it even would have been this cool moment where Dieter, who is kind of he was the baby of the group, he was the heart of the
yeah.
group, and if he like you know I mean he kind of has like this vault fetish, let's be real,
Mhm.
but
I've never seen someone
he's
probe
like
out harder
so
on a door.
amazed by this vault. It's like this amazing creation and piece of art, and like it would have been really cool to see him kind of make this sacrifice where um maybe he like tries to tackle the alpha into the vault and then
Mm.
like close the door, locking himself in to die, presumably like in the vault. But that's like Valhalla for him. That
Yeah.
also ties into his ideas of like on the other side of this door is either death or rebirth.
That's true. Yeah.
Um, and it could have been both because he dies, but then the zombie alpha is there, which is like the rebirth.
Yeah.
Uh, and then that would have been like, okay, that was really cool. Zombie alpha is taken care of. Let's get on
Yeah.
with the action. But instead, it was just like, um, Dieter dies, and the alpha gets away, and then this guy is just stuck in a vault until Vegas gets nuked, and then he's able to somehow get out of this vault, which is
Yeah.
also
Which that's the other thing. So I just wanted to say that because as you said, Dieter, he knows a lot about this vault, to the point where he's literally like perving out on it as he's cracking this vault, like he's very knowledgeable about it, and it may have made sense to him in the moment. I'll give you this. It may have made sense to him in the moment to try to tackle Zeus into the vault. If he even had an opportunity to do so, that would not have been easy for little Dieter to tackle Zeus into this
Oh
vault and
yeah,
have
no,
enough time to close it.
I don't even know if that would have happened. Like maybe
Yeah.
he just like runs to the back and like is trying to
Yeah,
pull or
but
something.
even if he did, but here's the thing that even if he did, and again, this is probably taking a much longer view than you would be thinking in the heat of the moment, but as you just said, as we've seen, anything that's in this vault can survive even a nuclear blast which destroys the city. So, if anything, the last place you would want Zeus to be is in the nuclear bunker when a bomb is about to level this entire city in 90 minutes. Well, in 15 minutes at this point. Um, and
So
so,
here's what I'll say about that is at the very end of the movie, which we're pretty close to at this point. Um, God, what's his name? Um, uh, Vaughn gets locked in this vault.
mm,
Nuke goes off. He eventually walks out of the vault, gets on a plane to Mexico City, and realizes he has a bite. That is setting up a sequel and another possible zombie outbreak.
mm,
Locking Zeus in the vault would have achieved the same thing, but also kept him as the main villain, it would have kept the possibility for that zombie hierarchy where you have the shamblers and the smart zombies.
Mm.
It would have allowed for a cool sacrifice. I think there just would have been a lot more potential for an ending like that. But yes, you are right. Would it be really a smart thing to do because he's going to survive a nuclear blast? No, but in the heat of the moment, you don't really have many options.
Yeah.
So it definitely could have gone either way.
Sure, yeah, but here's also the other problem is that we need Zeus for subsequent scenes in Act 3, so we can't have him locked in the vault the whole time.
Yeah.
But it is a good point. That would have been an interesting angle to take with it. But yes, so at this point, people are already dropping like flies, but Ward is still alive, Kate is still alive. Vanderho is locked in the vault. Lily is still alive. Tig Notaro, who we don't check in with Peters for a long time in the middle of this movie. Like I assumed she was dead at the point where you're already having the zombie rush. No, honestly, because we hadn't heard from her since they first got to the casino. So I assumed that she'd been so quiet.
She's on top of this building. She can see literally everything. She can see the entire city. Why did she not radio down, hey, those guys are storming out of Olympus towards your location right now?
Like, another plot hole. And we hadn't heard from her in so long. I just assumed she was dead already, but she's still alive, and Guzman is still alive. And so they're making their way through the hallway. There's an entire swarm waiting for them there. There was some cool fights there. Batista's running across the poker tables and the blackjack tables, like just getting headshots on each side. That was kind of fun. Guzman is pulling some moves, but he gets overrun and he gets swarmed. And again, with another Alien 2 thing, or Aliens, I should say. He has a whole, stash of grenades on his chest. He detonates them all to take out a ton of zombies in the hallway.
And then that's where we see the second Snyder explosion.
Exactly. And so now Guzman is dead. So Ward and Lily go up to the roof where Marianne Peters, Tig Notaro, is still alive. And Zeus is there. And Tig Notaro's got the helicopter functional. Ward gets on the helicopter. Lily tells them to go ahead. And she says she has a plan. Clearly she doesn't have a plan. She's sacrificing herself, I guess, to give them time to get away.
But why didn't she also just get on the helicopter while keeping the kid's head to her gun until they were far enough away that she could dispose of it, or even hang on to it so they still get their money?
Exactly. That's true. That's another thing. So yeah, no, it was not a necessary sacrifice. Lily, I think, could have gotten on the helicopter, but she doesn't. The helicopter takes off. She gets, or hell, maybe she even did have a plan, but she gets speared by Zeus, which I was not expecting that. That's I think the first time we've actually seen.
Not even with a spear, with the length of rebar.
Exactly.
That does not have a pointy tip. That is like a flat, like inch diameter.
Oh yeah.
Piece of metal.
Yeah, and so even if she did have a plan, she just gets destroyed by this spear. Which I will say that was a cool moment. It's not often that you see zombies using weaponry, but that was one moment where we did see that.
That would have been a lot cooler if they embraced that more. And some of the other smarter zombies also brought weapons. That's something I wish I did see more of, like having them like kind of dodge out of the way of shots and like spring off of things to tackle and stuff like that was really cool. But if we could see them like formulate plans or like use weapons, I think that also would have brought more kind of attention to the name Army of the Dead.
Absolutely.
But that's just kind of like a minor thing.
No, totally. I agree with you. I think that would have been really interesting to see. And so Ward and Peters get away. They fly over to Olympus to try to find Kate.
Instead of leaving the city because it's about to be nuked.
Yeah. Well, in that case, I give him a pass because I mean, of course, he's gonna go try to find his daughter. Like, even if he accepts that in doing so, he almost certainly won't have enough time to get a safe distance away from the city. He's not gonna leave his daughter there.
Yeah.
So. And so he goes over to Olympus. He looks around. He finds Kate, as well as Gita. Gita's still alive, and one other person. And so they make their way back up to the roof. The other person dies, but Gita and Kate are still alive. And they have another run-in with Zeus, who shows back up. And this time, at least they all get onto the helicopter, but Zeus does a running jump over the edge of the building as the helicopter is taking off and catches the helicopter. Which first, I mean, we should just say, first they think that Tignataro just left them. But as we see in a second, like, the helicopter is still right there. But it was silenced.
Yeah, so she had this explanation that was like, halfway between saving my ass and leaving yours, I developed a conscience. It's like, okay, that's great. Why even have that in the movie if she's just going to show up right away?
Yeah.
Like, what was the point of that?
And also, I mean, if she's still just right there and just come back up to the building to get them, like, because there's a beat of just silence where you believe that she's left them. But the helicopter's right there. You would hear the helicopter. Helicopters are really loud. You could hear a helicopter from across the city. So if it's right there, you wouldn't be unaware of it. But anyway, perhaps that's a nitpick. But she picks them up. Zeus does a running jump, catches them on the helicopter.
I will say, for a second, I thought he was going to get clipped by the blades.
I also
thought that was how he was going to die, but no.
Yeah, I thought the exact same thing. And but it didn't happen. And so now you have these four on this helicopter flying away from Las Vegas, which is about to be literally seconds away from being nuked. They do some aerial maneuvers, trying to get Zeus off the helicopter, but eventually, it's a stalemate. Batista can't fight him off. They clear the wall. They escape the city, and we see Vegas just be incinerated by this nuclear blast. It's leveled. It's done. But of course, and I know you're supposed to feel this way at this point, but I just thought, oh my God, everybody else is dead, but one of the people on the helicopter is the most dangerous zombie.
The one
started
zombie
everything,
that you don't want to live,
who has escaped on this helicopter. But I guess I get that's supposed to be what you're thinking. Of course, it's a nuclear bomb, so it creates a massive shockwave that knocks them out of the sky. Batista actually starts to get the upper hand on Zeus, but they crash. The crash kills Tignataro, kills Zeus. We don't see what happened to Gita.
Well, actually, Zeus dies a little bit before because he managed to shoot him in the head.
Oh, right.
Like right before they crashed.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, he managed to get a headshot on him. And so Zeus is dead. Tignataro is dead. We don't see Gita's body, but she's almost certainly dead.
She's dead. Yeah.
And we're just left with Batista and Kate, and Batista got bit in the fight, so he's gonna turn. And also he's badly wounded, so he probably won't even be able to walk out of this desert, even if it wasn't for the bite. And thank goodness Kate was still in a good enough position to number one, say goodbye, and also to shoot him, because if Kate also died in the crash and it's just Batista left, well, then he just becomes the new alpha and he'll just start this somewhere else. But Kate's okay. Batista, he gives her the little bit of money they were able to get out of the casino to get Gita's kids out of the camp. And they say goodbye, and she has to shoot him in the head, before he turns. Which I do want to ask you about this, because this is something that I think about, certainly in this movie and any other kind of zombie media, where this is a plot point. If a loved one of mine, a close family member, a friend, anybody, they've been bitten by a zombie, right? They are turning or have already turned. I understand, and look, you'll never know what it's like to be in this position. But to me, I wouldn't hesitate to decapitate or shoot in the head a loved one if they were already a zombie. You know, like
if they were already a zombie, I can. It would be the likelihood that you'd hesitate is much lower. I mean, it would still be a very emotional and heartbreaking moment after the fact.
yeah, but you
But
had to
you'd shoot them. But if they're like if it's before they turn, but they're going to turn, I think
turn it.
that's when it like becomes so difficult because you're not killing a zombie, you're killing your loved one at that point. And
Right.
it's and just her scream and seeing her like throw the gun, it broke my heart. Like that was actually really painful. And
Oh
that's where
yeah.
some of the emotional plot elements kind of came together. Had they been like a little more earned and a little better developed, I think this would have been even more impactful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but man, that was a tough scene.
Yeah, and I'll say this because I don't want to mean to suggest that it wouldn't be hard. It definitely, that's a very, very emotionally difficult scenario. As you said, before they've turned, they're going to turn, but they haven't done so yet. That's the hardest part because they're still your loved one at that point. But if they're actively in the process of turning / are already a zombie, in my mind, they're not your loved one anymore, and you're actually doing them a mercy by killing them sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
So, and in this case, Ward was already beginning to turn, as we saw. So, it's not your loved one anymore, and you're doing them the greatest service by ending it quickly. That's how I rationalize it. And frankly, and it's same is true if the shoe were on the other foot. If I were bitten, I wouldn't want to
give me the
linger.
gun. I'll do it
Exactly,
myself.
I'll do
Yeah,
it myself. Quite honestly, like it's there's nothing to be gained by lingering. So that's kind of how I rationalize it. Not to cheapen it, because as you said, I mean, it was definitely an impactful emotional beat. But I always think that to myself, like in that situation, I can't say I would hesitate that much because they're not your loved one anymore. And in fact, in that scenario, I'm sure what they would want more than anything else would be for you to do it. So
yeah,
you just kind of do it. But anyway, that's kind of the end of the main action. Kate walks off into the desert with the money, presumably. Not to be a downer, but let's be honest. They didn't get that far away from Las Vegas. Yes, the fireball didn't kill her, nor did the shockwave. But right
probably
now,
has
as she,
something.
as she walks through this desert, she's being exposed to such massive amounts of radiation. Her lifespan is she's not going to live for more than a few weeks after this. I mean, we know what happens when human beings, like we saw in Chernobyl, when
Yeah.
they're
Oh
exposed
God,
to
yeah.
that much level of radiation close up. You know, she's alive now, but she's not going to make it very far. Um,
Yeah,
and
that was another thing I was thinking about. It's like, there you see the initial explosion goes off and the shockwave like knocks the helicopter forward.
mm,
And it almost crashes immediately from that. But wouldn't the radiation also just damage all of the electronics and basically make it fall out of the sky immediately? Because
yeah,
there were like a few seconds where she like kind of gains control, and I think it was while killing the alpha, something happened that they crashed. But
yeah, no,
I mean,
yeah,
if
yeah.
the radiation, zips through the helicopter, it would just drop like a rock at that
Oh,
point.
I think so. Yeah, no, I think so. But yeah, she walks off into the sunset, and that's the end of the main story. But of course, we do get a was it a mid-credit scene? I think we saw some credits roll, and then we saw it pop up.
Yeah, I think it was actually.
Yeah, and so we get a mid-credit scene. As you said, somehow Vanderhome manages to make it out of the safe. No idea how. Presumably, however he got out, they could have just used that to get into the safe in the first place, not spend 30 minutes cracking it. But I guess Dieter just didn't know about the secret hatch or whatever. Um, And so he manages to make it out into the bombed out, nuked remains of Las Vegas. He's got a bunch of money. He's got a bunch of the duffel bags with the money. He walks out of the city. He finds some dusty old gas station, finds a car that still works, and then drives off to Utah, which is interesting because I just, to get to Utah from Las Vegas, you could get to the border with California sooner and the border with Arizona sooner. So I don't know why he went to Utah, but he went to Utah. And he goes to an airport. He essentially just throws a bunch of money at some private jet company to charter a plane. And it looks like he kind of got away with it. It was kind of like your cliched successful heist thing. He's on the private jet. He's got the champagne. He's schmoozing with the stewardesses. It's kind of like what you would expect if this were a traditional heist movie. Of course, again, in the back of my mind, this whole time I was thinking, he was literally just walking. He was walking around in a city that was just nuked like a few hours ago. So
also, radiation poisoning.
Exactly. Yeah. Not only will the radiation kill him, but unfortunately, he's so irradiated that he's also giving dangerous amounts of radiation to everyone he's interacting with, the stewardesses, the lady at the airport gate, everybody. So in the back of my mind, I knew that there's no way that he actually walks off into the sunset because he's gonna die probably within days with the amount of radiation he's been exposed to. Yeah. But for the moment, he seems like he's gotten away with it until he starts to feel a little sick, and the stewardesses are getting a little concerned. They notice that his skin is really cold. He insists that he's going to be fine. He goes into the bathroom, and he realizes that he's been bitten. He got bitten at some point in the fight. And that's when we learn where this plane is going. Apparently, he chartered it to Mexico City. Why Mexico City? Who's to say? But he wanted to go to Mexico City, and let's be honest. Again, the responsible thing would be just off himself right then and there. But it's probably setting up a sequel.
Yep.
In Mexico City or elsewhere. The Outbreak Part 2. Although even then, I was thinking about this afterwards. I know these are all nitpicks, but it's not like he brought his passport with him on this heist. Even when the plane arrives in Mexico, he's not going to go through customs with his millions of dollars in stolen money from the recently leaked Las Vegas. I'm not going to let him in. And so, even when he got there, I'm not sure what his plan was. And they're definitely not going to be, the Mexican authorities aren't going to be too happy when they find out that, they find out that he's arrived as a zombie. That was very inconsiderate of him. And so even then, again, if these movies were smart, they would send in a SWAT team and just unload into that airplane bathroom and then problem solved. Yeah. But probably a sequel. So that's the end of that.
Does this movie deserve a sequel, do you think?
I think it did enough where I'm intrigued to see where they might go. In my mind, here's how I justify it. In my mind, this is actually the second in an unofficial trilogy. Because we saw Zack Snyder, his first feature was Dawn of the Dead back in 2004. That was set in Wisconsin. I haven't seen the movie, but I read up about it a little bit. That was set in Wisconsin. And in this movie, they do reference on the news the zombie wars, suggesting that there may be other events beyond just what we see in Las Vegas. And perhaps that first outbreak in Wisconsin from Dawn of the Dead is related to this somehow. Or maybe that happened in the past, and now we're seeing this. And so I don't think they're going to make this official, but I think that in Zack Snyder's mind and in my mind as well, I'm going to say that this is the second in an unofficial trilogy, much like how Split was a kind of a backdoor sequel to Unbreakable. I think this is kind of the same kind of thing. So this is number 2, and then the last one will kind of be the culmination. After the events of Dawn of the Dead, and this one it'll be the end. And I don't want anything beyond that, beyond the next movie. But I think you can get one more and then call it quits there. So I think it did enough to it did enough to get me intrigued to where I would watch a sequel if they put it out. What I'm not as keen on is what I think they're planning to do, which is turn this into a whole franchise. So not only are they planning
really
a sequel,
make a franchise out of this?
Well, yeah. Well, so here's what they're planning. The movie sets up a sequel, so we're probably going to get that. They're already doing a prequel to Army of the Dead. I think that's going to feature Dieter's character, and they're doing I think like a spin-off anime or some kind of animated series. That's going to be about the fall. That's more about the fall of Las Vegas. So they're having multiple projects spin off of this. And honestly, I don't know if I care about a Dieter prequel.
Yeah, no, not at all.
I really don't think I care. Like, you could do a sequel to this, and then that's it.
Yeah.
I really don't want to see anything beyond that. But it did enough for me to get a sequel.
Yeah, for me, it's like, I think a sequel would be kind of cool. I did really like the visuals of this because, yes, it was kind of a zombie apocalypse, but it also took place in kind of, the fact that it took place in like a desert city was pretty cool to me because, we're really used to like New York or Atlanta or like, places with a lot of vegetation, and what we see is like buildings with plants growing through them and whatever. And the visual I like is that like desert, sandy, dusty building ruins, and seeing zombies in that environment is a lot less common. And that's something that can continue with in Mexico City. But the main issue is that the intrigue of this movie was the fact that it was a heist movie, or at least supposed to be a heist movie, just with that zombie backdrop. And they obviously can't do a sequel for that because, if they tried, it would be really dumb.
Right.
I assume it'll be Kate coming back as some kind of grizzled badass who wants to, kill all these zombies because she lost basically everyone she cared about to these zombies, and assembling some kind of team. I don't know. I don't think there's enough to build a franchise out of this. I think this one movie was really cool. There are some things I would change. Things that I think could have been done better. Things that I think were really, really good. Just, it was a good movie. If you want to do a sequel, you can. But like, I would say make it even more different than this was. Rarely only like tangentially related. Like you said, kind of an unofficial sequel. But
yeah. And not to be too much of a homer, but I mean, if I had to pick a location for the next sequel, I mean, I'm sure Mexico City is fine. I mean, there's definitely interesting angles you could take with that. But I mean, if I had to pick another location in America to have the next next interesting location, kind of unique location in America to have the next film and the next zombie outbreak, I think Miami would be a really interesting city to have a zombie outbreak in, because it kind of has that kind of similar Vegas thing where you have South Beach and lots of cool Art Deco buildings and neon lights and very kind of touristy cool area. And you could also then do stuff with the beach and water and have more of that, influence of it.
I was literally just thinking, I want to see like kind of a beach setting for.
Yeah,
Miami would be great. And if you just did like a completely separate movie from this, have it set in Miami and pull like Miami Vice vibes, but for a zombie movie.
Yeah.
And have like
that'd be great.
Have it take place in like the 90s and pull all those like 90s action tropes and costumes and stuff. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. If I had to pick a location, I think that would be really interesting. But at any rate, as you said, I mean, this movie was very entertaining. It did its job. It delivered on what it promised. It promised to be an action zombie heist film, which it had twists and turns and different things that were unconventional. As you said, not perfect. There's things I would change, and there's definitely plot holes and stupid elements, but
But when you're watching it,
different.
it doesn't. When you're watching it, it's a fun ride.
Oh yeah, yeah. And
I mean,
that's the thing is that
like we're purposefully kind of nitpicking and exploring what would we do differently, what was wrong. But if you just want a fun movie to watch, go ahead and watch it. Like
totally.
it is a good, fun 2.5 hours. So
totally. I mean, you don't think of any of this stuff while you're watching it because you don't have a chance. You don't have time.
yeah,
we're always
on the edge of your seat the whole time. So
exactly, yeah. So yeah, no, totally. I would recommend it, and despite it all, I think I would stay at 7 out of 10.
yeah,
I think that it did its job. It did exactly what it promised, and at the end of the day, I don't know where I would put this in terms of Zack Snyder's win-loss category. It's kind of in the middle. It's not. I still think that my favorite thing he's done is still 300. Like that's a really cool movie.
yeah.
But but it's not at that level of entertainment. But I also definitely didn't hate it as much as Batman v Superman. So
And it's very tonally different from both of those films too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like if you're only used to, like you said, if you're a Zack Snyder fan, you'll enjoy this film. Mm-hmm. If you don't like Zack Snyder's works, if you hated like Batman v Superman and Justice League and Man of Steel,
yeah,
give this movie a try. Just watch it because it's it has like there's some Snyder elements, but it also kind of has some of that like James Gunn vibe. It's obviously takes place in the desert. Casino vibes. It's very brightly colored, which is a nice kind of breath of fresh air from most of Snyder's work. So, yeah, I would say still watch it.
Yeah, and also this is quite literally Snyder's vision of the movie because he served as his own director of production or a director of photography as well in this movie. Yeah. So you get a lot, as you said, a lot of slow-mo, a lot of extreme close-ups, all of those things he loves. So if you are a Snyder fan, you'll definitely love it because you get all of those things. You get Snyder's, his mythology and all that stuff he loves of, gods and men and all that stuff. And you get all those visual things as well. But as you said, I mean, this is also definitely different from a lot of stuff he's done as well. So if you were bummed out by his take on the DC, this is definitely a lot more colorful, at least, and a lot more varied than those films. So yeah, check it out if you're looking for a good zombie film to watch this summer. It was pretty good. It was pretty good.
I think we're it's about time we wrap it up here. Do you have any final thoughts you want to say, or?
I think that's just about everything. It was really interesting. I think that we picked this was a really interesting film to be our first review because it's not unambiguously good, it's not unambiguously bad. It's pretty good, not great, but kind of in the middle. So I enjoyed it. I'd recommend it, and yeah, we'll see what comes next for the Army of the Dead world.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. I've been Reid.
And I've been Jonathan.
And we'll see you next time on Observation Conversations.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. Goodbye.
Good night.